Hello, I'm Balamurugan Sinkaran. I have been designing and implementing enterprise and data center solution from Cisco for the last 18 years. I have a CCIE in voice collaboration, data center security and wireless. I'm currently working as a project manager for telematics taking care of their ICT portfolio. Chosen to talk about Cisco DUO offering for SMB, so let's dive right in. The slides it shows the evidence from the following statistics that cyber threats have evolved and more sophisticated than ever before. The average remediation cost of an infrastructure being compromised justifies the ROI in a diverse and effective security portfolio implicitly. With the threat landscape growing broader due to the addition of IoT device and the workforce and the endpoints being displaced from a traditional environment, visibility as becoming a growing concern. With a different argumentation of the workforce rapidly evolving to meet business needs, the workforce includes but is not limited to internal employees, contractors, third party consultants, and an outsourced workforce. This brings in the need for access to the network from anywhere, which completely redefines the notation of protecting the perimeter of the network since it is not clearly defined anymore. The cost of doing any business on the internet today comes with unfortunate ramification of opening yourself up to exploits. Cisco defines the four pillars of securities as infrastructure as security, endpoint security, cloud security, and multi-factor authentication. This comprehensive approach to security helps customers deploy solution in different combination and secure their environment in different domains based on the prioritize. Before diving into Cisco DUO's offering, let's discuss into how the network has evolved and how SD-WAN has made it simpler to integrate the different silos in networking to get a broader picture of modern network landscape. With the increasing shift in the dynamics of traditional networking infrastructure and the ambiguous nature of the cloud solution have pushed for the need of SD-WAN solution. Gone are the days when all the traffic from the branch office had to be routed through the campus office due to the security concern, and it was an expensive proportion to secure the branch office with a distinct security silo. With adaptation of multi-cloud strategies with the integration to the campus data center, the legacy models don't make sense anymore. With the SD-WAN solution from Cisco branches can be facilitated to send and receive traffic directly from the public cloud software as a solution platform, and the co-location facilitates opposed to going through the campus infrastructure every time. They want to access data outside the internal network perimeter. Another advantage of SD-WAN would be the shift to more available and efficient underlay transport mechanisms such as an LTE or 5G broadband and Metro Ethernet instead of legacy WAN link such as an MPLS, which are also expensive. As an added advantage, SD-WAN encrypts all the traffic being sent in its overlay and has very granular policies that allows for QoS settings that were not possible before. The internet has become part of the network age with the search in the device trying to access the network from anywhere instead of from the campus or the branch office alone like the used to traditionally. This has blurred the line of the perimeter for a given network. It gives rise to zero trust approach when none of this devices that are provisioned or trusted, including the device that have internal clearance. The gain of the new cloud app and the microservices can introduce a gap in the IT visibility and control over the attack surface. User can now install a self-enabled application that may be insecure or demand excessive access permissions. The number and the range of mobile devices, corporate and personally owned, will continue to grow, and the bring your own device trend means more personally owned smartphones, laptops, tablets, and so on are accessing critical application, resulting in further lack of visibility and control. In a zero trust access model, IT applies precise control over who, what, when, where, and how user and IoT endpoints are allowed on the wired and wireless network. They can also apply a zero trust approach by using a group based policy control and end to end client to application segmentation to restrict the access to resource on your network. IT staff can mitigate the unauthorized lateral movement between the workload within or beyond the data center, which can help reduce the attack surface in the event that an attacker is already inside. Zero trust. This will be our agenda for today's, and we will be going over how zero trust is a necessity to secure the modern day network and how the evaluation of the network perimeter and workforce have led the transformations. We will then move on to talk about how the DO solution will be able to leverage your existing infrastructure and identify stores to provide a comprehensive solution. We will be looking at the product life cycle and the integration into an existing infrastructure. Finally, we will go over a case study and understand the limitation that are currently being faced and how we can overcome them. This is a slide from World Economic Forum discuss the different thread, and if you take a look at it, the first three are natural process over which we don't have much control. But what alarming is the number 4 and 5 are the concern about cyber security. This displays the need of growing concern among the organization to secure the infrastructure. Extended workforces. Credential are easily compromised and stolen. Attackers are able to exploit the network by simply logging in. This is why we need the multi-factor authentication to protect our network. You need to understand your inventory. That is what device you need to protect first, and then what vulnerability need to be patched on the endpoints, and making sure that Active Directory has all the user map appropriately, avoiding the lateral movement by segmentation and containing the threads with the zero trust is the end goal. We need to start looking at the network from inside towards the outside, which means you need to look at where the applications are stored and which user are accessing them. Continuing risk assessment is another concept that comes in with a zero trust rather than an internal assessment and conclusion. The zero trust approach by default does not trust any device that are present in the internal networks or rather with the reach of the firewall. They are assessed with the same level of probe for a device from the external network. The perimeter is in any place where you make an access control decision, or in simple terms, the point of contact where you onboard a device onto your network. This would mean that the perimeter would encompass an user accessing the network from a highly secure corporate device and also a contractor working from his home and logging into the network remotely. One third of the security professionals are not familiar with the zero trust access policies. Zero trust beyond the principles. When you assume that every access attempts is from the untrusted network, this does not mean you remove your remote workers. Rather, it would mean a streamlined approach to treat all device, whether internal or external, in the same manner, regardless of the host or the entry point in the network. Once the user are on board, make sure they are triple complain and that the traffic is encrypted and the application access should be granted based on the user rules. DO zero trust for the workforces. If a user credential have been compromised, we need to form of authentication to prove their identity. Then we need to make sure that their device is not compromised because of a compromised device with a trusted user. It's still a vulnerability. The user and the device become the access point, and when they are accessing an application we need to be able to apply the uniform policies across the network, whether it's a branch campus or on a cloud or accessing to the software as a solution platform. How the do works. The IAM solution that is being deployed will define a user-based access to the application. The device will be verified again the posters that posters that has been configured and use certificates to verify it is managed or unmanaged device and then give access to the application regardless of whether they are located in the cloud or on premises. This model does not require any additional infrastructure changes and will work with your existing IAM solution like an AD user. DO is completely managed in the cloud. This reduces configuration and simplifies implementation as policies and modify they are pushed throughout the network as a new session is initiated. So you don't have rollouts of new policies. This addressed the concerns of not having a skilled workforce, easy of operation, implementation of a new policy. Yeah, reduce total of cost, ownerships, and existing technology need to be replaced. Cloud security based deployment are becoming increasingly popular and are being adapted. Cloud based security solutions are also becoming mainstream with other offerings such as a Cisco Umbrella, which is a security solution to defend against DNS exploits. Organizations will rapidly adapt such models as they make move to public cloud providers such as AWS Azure. The five phases of maturity model DO. The five stages adaptation needs to be implemented in an incremental way and change can be applied accordingly in a different stages. In the initial phase, you start by using multi-factor authentication. The second phase, the device are classified and vulnerable device are identified and software patches along with access policies for application are put in place. This approach makes it more comprehensive for companies to adapt the solution as it's rolled out incrementally. The percentage indicate the number of organizations that have adapted zero trust in the capacity described. It does not add up to 100 as the remaining participants in the sample size did not adapt zero trust in any capacity. Implementing the solution. Typical implementation of the solution would start out by educating the stakeholders about the solution and then identifying an isolated services in the business where it can be implemented and can be used as a proof of concept. After an agreed period of testing for rolled out of the POC, we tweak and make changes from the issues faced during the POC. Only after the POC phase is completed, the solution is rolled out based on what user would access, for example, Salesforce.com or Office 365, or if it is an internal application or the application hosted in a public cloud services. We run as a test case and go through a discovery process of the issues and remediate them. That would be a full life cycle. So you can take a specific user case and start off with the POC for it and discover how the user interact with and make changes based on that. POC timeline. If you are using a product that has a DO built into it, the process of setting it up is a fairly simple. It can be integrated with your existing authentication prefixes such as LDAP server. DO Access Gateway enables support for a single sign on for supported application. And then finally, you can use DO Network Gateway for complete and remote access to your internal application. The part where DO stands out with the ease of integration and the implementation as it leverage your existing infrastructure to keep track of identify database. One of the biggest challenge that majority of CISOs face when embracing a new security solution is the process of integration, and that is not concerned with the DO solution. I want to talk about a case study from the DO website where enrolled around 200K user in a large enterprise environment within a timeline of 3 months. This structured approach involved a pilot run on all the integration that were later performed on a full scale, removing all the bottlenecks and issues faced in the pilot. Since educating the user and help desk is template based, most of that process can be expedited based on the crowd. It's a relatively simpler process to roll out. Implementation and integration as a part of Cisco Drive to intent-based networking where the network is seen as asset empowering the business rather than a cost weighting it down. Let's go over the different factors to focus on briefly. For example, scaling out application in a move to migrate them to the cloud and how it would translate in terms of securing the user in the new environment, the collection, presentation, and the central orchestration of telemetry analytics to further the structural integrity of the solution and how it would impact the network security operation. With the onboarding of third-party workforces or having an internal employee use their home offices or driving factors for adaptation of DUO. Compliance requirements in the different industry like the payment card industry, retail and healthcare are taken into account into the solution. With the DO, we can be more granular with a role-based access policy. For example, you can use a collection, you can use a location services to restrict access or different timing that incorporated to the working hours or accessing privilege can be tied to a particular device like a secured and authorized corporate device as opposed to a BYOD or a guest device. Relevant example would be the running of a business critical application during a time of crisis like ongoing pandemic. Applications that are usually accessed only from within the organization can allow user to access them remotely with a set of restrictive rules as we discuss about to access them during unfortunate time to keep business going. So, designing risk frameworks such as this not only allowing flexibility in the business, but they also allow for continuous uptime. With telemetry data being collected, it can be complement other areas with detailed log of the user activity. In the unfortunate event of a breach, data from the log give us much more control and visibility into what caused the issue. Vulnerability management team can define access policy based on the version of the software and the vulnerabilities that are yet to be patched by the device being used by the user. This encourages the user to keep the device updated, patched, and also indicate a shared responsibility model. This approach gives an overview of the stability of the device at the time of login in and opposed to periodically taking over the inventory of a device and classifying them. This shared possibility model essentially make the end user part of the security team, driving a culture of security awareness, not just internally with the organization, but rather extend the user case to the home offices. The solution extends beyond zero trust and complements the network and security operation team with a telemetry and awareness. Reducing the risk. Mm, Risk for the organization is the fundamental user case of the product. According to Cisco Global Cloud Index by 2021, the traffic with the data center will account for 72% of all data center traffic and will far exceeding data center to user 50 percentage, data center to data center 14 percentage of traffic. This is a major concern as increasing the east-west traffic highlighted the need of containing a lateral movement to secure the infrastructure in the event of breach. So when you look at the analysis here, when a device compromise credential is used to infiltrate the network with exfiltrate data, the risk and the impact on the organization is phenomenal. But when you look at the how the solution performs to block the attack from happening at different stages of an attack, ranging from examination, infiltration, and expansion. It is actively defending the infrastructure at the forefront proactively, where the reduction of filtration and expansion, we are effectively reducing the risk factor. We achieve this by using different policies that were discussed previously. And in the event of infiltration, the threat landscape is greatly reduced by limiting lateral movement in the network. This is achieved by segmenting and very granular policy. This reduces the impact in the event of a breach extensively. For an attacker to gain an access to the network by spoofing an user, he needs to compromise several different elements, which in turn starts to notify the user of an unauthorized attempts to access the network. And by then the attacker can be logged out. But in the event of them getting access, they are still limited to what they can access once they can infiltrate the network, as we have strict policy to restrict lateral movement. Gaining the benefits. Since security has been driven down to the user, the cost can be calculated per user, as well as making this a very attractive product with a low TCO. Incremental scaling with the attributes described in the heat map allow onboarding of a new user without any frictions. Since it is a software as a solution, it is highly scalable and agile. Once the integration is complete with the low level policies, you can notice how it affects the workforce and make changes to the user based policy accordingly from the observation. Measuring the benefits. Vodafone Cyber Reality Barometer has a list of priorities. According to the statistics, the employee were more concerned about the security of their device than the employee. So the opportunity has pretty much presented itself to us in this market. The user realize the vulnerability and are looking for a product to bridge the gap. That's what DUO can enable them to do. The help desk and the network operator team, as I discussed earlier, are provided with a very detailed telemetry data, which makes the job very innovative, which makes educating them about the product very simple task. The device status is monitored each time a user tries to log in, which allows for detailed inventory and establish a pattern which can later be used to detect against. The user can change their own password after being authenticated into a secure portal, taking a huge burden of the help desk. Measuring the benefits. When it comes to the risk mitigation, most organizations have gotten quite sophisticated at the application risk assessment in regards to how it will affect the relationships of other applications and what kind of damage it will create to the business stability for internal and outsourced workforce. If you can secure an application better than you are successful at mitigating the risk. From the management perspective, user trust is a major concern. If the user have a confidence in the product, it is much easier to onboard them and provisioning the rollout. If an operational point of view, you have several KPI that you can put into the perspective as you phase your rollout. For example, the number of inactive accounts, the patch level, thread version statistics, centralized inventory details, status of the OS, and browsers, and so on. Implementation issues. This is a statistics obtained from different security professionals about what challenges they would face if they had to implement this product within their organization. And it turns out what the user concern is negligible because the product is easy to use, so there is no black backlash from the side. They can use the code or opt to receive a call back, adjust their iPhones to receive a code. Understanding within the organization can easily run with educating and all the stakeholders and with the POC pilot rollout. Lesson from a real life example. Let's look at this case study of a law firm which over 1,000 users. The perimeter the perimeter was disappearing, so they had to adapt to a new strategy. They immediately noticed that the workforce was more flexible and that made their infrastructure resilient. They were better positioned to meet with the compliance and give their clients assurance in regards to the data being stored securely. Self enrollment reduces the overhead cost onboarding existing and the new user, and the process is so simple that it gets a lot of good feedback about how easy it to use. With the existing multi-factor authentication method mechanism not able to fill security gap with the increasing onload of BYOD. There is a growing market to more versatile solution like do you which provision multi-factor authentication the way it was intended to delivered with the compliance being a major concern for much of the industry. DUO helps meet those standards while keeping the TCO low. It isolates the network infrastructure from risk factor initiated by outdated or a rogue BYOD device trying to gain access to the network. DUO helps customers gain visibility into their ever evolving network while keeping the mission critical applications secure. Cisco DUO clearly stands out when compared to the offering by our competitors. It has an undue advantage in the following domain. It supports all the major operating system platforms and all device classes can identify the ownership of the device. It puts forward a comprehensive approach to onboard device into the network infrastructure and gives them segmented access to the network based on the user.